Vermont housing market update, October 2025. What's going on in the housing market here in Vermont? Well, overall, things remain pretty stable. Inventory is up, which means buyers have more options. There's more homes on the market. New listings are up. At the same time, pending sales, or the amount of homes going under contract, that's increasing as well. We have seen mortgage rates tick down this past month, which is great. They sit at under 6%, at least according to Eastrise. Your specific mortgage rate may be different. It depends on your credit score and your financial factors, but the best mortgage rate that Eastrise is advertising right now is under 6%. It's in the fives, which is great, which means that affordability overall for buyers is starting to increase. And I think that is what's holding up the Vermont housing market. Gone are the days of 8% mortgage rates. Of course, gone are the days of 4% mortgage rates as well. But we're not seeing home prices drop despite this increased inventory. And that's because mortgage rates have started to come down. Now we're going to dive into the stats in this video to give you an idea of where things are heading here in Vermont. But before we do, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, all of my contact information is in the description. Reach out to me directly. I would be happy to help you. All right, so let's jump over and get into the data. All right, so looking at the data, we see here the median sales price has not dropped. We have this little dip, but again, these are seasonal differences. Overall, it's up about 5% year over year compared to September 2024. We're right in this $400,000 to $450,000 ballpark that we have been in for the past year or so. And I don't think things are going to change moving into 2026. And that's despite more inventory on the market. I think this is the slowdown. You know, a lot of people have been waiting for real estate to slow down across the state or really across the country. If you look at what's happening in other parts of the country, you'll see that home prices are falling. Places like Texas, Florida, the markets are very slow in those areas. Here in Vermont, we're not seeing prices come down. Personally, from my subjective experience, I've seen an uptick of buyers now that mortgage rates are starting to come down. And we can see that in the pending sales numbers as well. So there's more options for buyers to choose from. There's more homes available, which is worse for you as a seller out there. It's good for you as a buyer, because it means you have more leverage. Now, at the same time, homes are still selling for over list price. There's a home that I showed in Richmond this past weekend that had multiple offers on it. There's another property in Richmond that I put under contract that had 3 offers on it. So homes are selling for over list price. Now, at the same time, not every property is selling for over list price. And that's something we've talked about quite a bit on this channel. Pricing your property appropriately in this market is how you generate top dollars, it gives you the best chance at getting more than one offer and selling for over list price. Again, it's not guaranteed, but it is still happening. We see here new pending sales are 659 pending sales, up about 20% compared to last year. And this is a result of more inventory on the market. There's more homes for buyers to choose from. Now, something we've talked about on this channel quite a bit is that there are a lot of buyers who can't afford to purchase right now. But as affordability starts to increase, as buyer leverage starts to increase, more of those buyers are going to come off the sidelines and start purchasing properties. So we see here active inventory is up about 20% year over year. So pretty much in line with that, the increase in pending sales, which is a good thing for the overall housing market. Buyers have more options. Of course, it is less competitive than it was in 2021 and 2022. So if you're a seller right now, you cannot bank on multiple offers, although that does happen. So we're looking at single family home data throughout the entire state when we're taking a look at these metrics here. We are going to dive into Chittenden County's data later on in this video as well. But what I wanted to look at next was the percentage of original list price received. We see that homes are selling for about 95% of original list price. So this is either through a price reduction or through accepting an offer under list price. 5% is pretty significant. If you take the $400,000 property, the median price property here in Vermont, that's about a $20,000 discount off of where the property was originally listed for. So sellers are taking a haircut more often than not across the state. Again, I want to stress that you may find yourself in a multiple offer situation. If you're a buyer, you may be lucky enough to get multiple offers if you're a seller, but on average, homes are selling for 5% under where they're listed for. Now, if you're a seller right now, you might be thinking, well, I'm going to list my home for $20,000 more than what the market is saying or what my realtor is telling me, because I know that I'm going to likely have to reduce it by 5% and accept an offer for under list price. Personally, I think that's a bad strategy. I see listings and I've listed properties that are too high. And what happens when you come out of the gate too high is the listing becomes stale. Buyers walk through the home, they have been viewing other properties around the area and are comparing in their mind your property to the other properties that they've seen. And if they feel that your home is overpriced, they're not going to come to the table with an offer, even 5% under list price. They might come at 10% under list price. More likely than not, they're not going to come to the table with an offer. And I know this because I'm a buyer's agent, I'm a listing agent. I see this out here in the market. So I think if you overprice your property, it's a big mistake in this market. It's likely going to sit there. You're going to find yourself without any buyers because buyers have more options right now. Now, let's take a look at some other data here. When we take a look at the supply of inventory, this is the ratio between buyers and sellers. Between 4 and 6 months supply is considered a balanced market where neither buyers nor sellers have an advantage. We're at 3.6 months supply for single family homes across the state. So we're pretty close to a balanced market. Again, this is why more homes are selling for under list price compared to years past, because we're shifting into a more balanced market statewide. Now, at the same time, again, median sales price is not dropping. That's despite homes selling for 95% of list price or about a 5% discount, right? You might think, okay, 5% discount, we're going to see a 5% drop in home prices across the state. You see that clearly here in this chart. Home prices across the state are not dropping. Now, talking about Chittenden County specifically, this is where I work. This is where I primarily operate, although I do work in the surrounding counties like Washington, Grand Isle, Franklin, Addison. I'm down in those areas quite a bit, but Chittenden County is where I'm based. Median sales price, again, even a little bit more stable than the rest of the state. Now, at the same time, we are seeing the exact same sorts of increases in pending sales in active inventory. Things are a bit slower here, although properties are trading for a bit closer to the original list price. So percentage of original list price received, about 98%, 97.5% of list price received here in Chittenden County. So again, if we take that median price property, which here in Chittenden County is closer to 500,000, 535, if we just use 500,000 for round numbers, that's about a $12,000 discount on a $500,000 price home. Now, it's not every home. Again, some homes are selling with multiple offers, but still, even despite the discounts that sellers are giving on their homes, we have a 7% yearly increase in median sales price. Again, the month over or the year over year data is a little bit skewed because we don't know exactly what happened, what homes sold in September. There's not enough data to make this number concrete, in my opinion. And the broader trend of where home prices are is a much more accurate representation of what the market is doing. And we see here, home prices are not dropping and they're not skyrocketing. We have relatively flat growth in home prices here in Chittenden County. Now, the data that we're looking at for Chittenden County is single family homes and condos. The reason why we take out condos for the general state of Vermont is because there are a lot of ski areas and ski condos that behave differently than the year-round market here in the state. And now let's take a look at some other data points here. New listings are up about 16% year over year. So similar to the statewide data, and I'll jump back over there before we wrap up this video so you can see that as well. New pending sales are up as well, again, 19%. So very similar to the state data. More homes are going under contract, more properties are hitting the market, and active inventory is up about 24% year over year. We can see here as more inventory than we've seen since November 2019. That's the last time we were at these inventory levels here in Chittenden County. So again, if you're a seller out there, that means that there's more competition for you. There's more options for buyers to choose from. At the same time, plenty of properties are going under contract. There are more sales this year than there were last year. Now, subjectively speaking, Well, real quick, before I dive into my subjective experience about the housing market, I said I would jump back to the statewide data here, just to take a look at new listings across the state. So new listings up about 10% year over year. So more sellers are listing their properties, more buyers are putting those homes under contract, but the number of sellers listing their homes is outweighing the number of buyers that are putting these properties under contract, which is causing inventory to grow and giving buyers more options. Now, subjectively speaking, what I'm seeing in the housing market is buyers are a bit more cautious with their purchase. They're more cautious when making an offer, and they're more flaky when they're under contract. We're seeing more deals fall out of contract compared to years past. At least this is a bit of a subjective opinion because I don't have the data on this in the website that I'm using, but subjectively speaking, what I'm seeing as a realtor working in this market on a daily basis is that more properties are falling through sometimes it's because of valid reasons in the building inspection, or sometimes it's because buyers are getting cold feet and deciding that they don't want to purchase that particular property. Now, part of the reason, in my opinion, why buyers are a bit more flaky in this market is because there's more options for these buyers to choose from. If you feel like this is your only chance at a home, like it was back in 2021, 2022, where you're competing against 10, 11, 12, sometimes even 20 offers on a property on almost every single property on the market. If you're a buyer who's shopping in that market and you get a property under contract, you're not going to want to terminate that contract because you don't know when you'll be able to get your next home under contract. It's probably not the first offer you've submitted. You may have been looking for a while, and you're likely going to experience that same multiple offer situation at another property you're interested in. Now, in today's market, it's completely different. If you get a property under contract and then you get cold feet, you start having second thoughts, there might be 2 or 3 other properties on the market for you to choose from. And if not, there will be another home or 2 or 3 within the next 60 days or so. And so buyers, they're very picky even when they get under contract. So if you're a seller right now, your deal is not secured until you get through your building inspection. It depends a little bit on how that contract is structured. There are ways to make it more secure for you as a seller with the building inspection. But if it's just a standard building inspection here in Vermont, that inspection is to the buyer's satisfaction. So any issue in the building inspection, no matter how small, the buyer could say they don't feel comfortable with this building inspection and terminate the contract. Again, if there's stipulations in your specific contract, that's a different story, and do not rely on this specific piece of advice when you're going through your own real estate transaction. But just something to keep aware of, something to be aware of as a seller out there is that if you're not through your building inspection, the buyer may still terminate. Now, not every buyer is going to terminate. As a realtor, I'm almost holding my breath when I'm the listing agent until that buyer gets through their building inspection. After they get through that building inspection, it's very rare that you will see other contingencies in the contract that are strictly to the buyer's satisfaction. So after you get through that building inspection, it's typically a done deal. You're moving forward towards closing unless something major takes place with your home or with your title, things along those lines. So just be aware, buyers are terminating because the building inspection, and your home isn't necessarily going to close until you get through that building inspection contingency. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. I hope you got something out of it. Again, reach out to me if you have any real estate needs and leave a comment. Happy to answer your questions in the comment sections if you have any. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.